If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14, on November 27, 2024. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on November 4th, and that his prophetic funeral, in which Trump will sit next to Obama, will be on November 8th. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on January 1st, 2025. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a directed energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this, and it is believed that when Barack Obama is sitting next to Trump at Jimmy Carter's funeral, Obama will obtain Trump's Bluetooth MAC address, which will be used to target Trump with a directed energy weapon. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on December 16th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on December 17th. Israel will nuke and completely destroy Damascus, Syria on December 26th, 2024. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on November 8th, 2024. It is predicted that after Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as his vice president. On December 17th, the Democrat Party will use their electoral votes to make Michelle Obama the president-elect. It is predicted that on either December 22nd or 25th, Joe Biden will suffer a stroke. It is predicted that on December 26, 2024, Joe Biden will step down and Vice President Michelle Obama will become the 47th president. It is predicted that on December 26th, Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. On January 12, 2025, Michelle Obama will step down and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. His public inauguration ceremony will be on January 20th, 2025. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. June 8th, 2025, the true Feast of Pentecost in the calendar that watches for new moons, will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. It is predicted that on June 9th, the day after the rapture, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025. Which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be on the Day of Atonement, October 1st, 2025. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, and more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. All right, this video is predicting that Jimmy Carter will die on September 21st, 2024. All right, as I just said, this video was originally produced prior to September 21st. This extremely important video will talk about the things that God did to point to September 21st ahead of time in regards to the predicted death of Jimmy Carter. Now, we can see in this diagram here, September 21st was at the end of this trail of signs in this diagram right here. The trail of signs for Jimmy Carter precedes July 1st and extends beyond September 21st, but it wasn't possible to know that ahead of time. All we knew was that God was pointing to September 21st regarding the death of Jimmy Carter, and therefore it was reasonable to assume that that would be the date and not yet another step in the trail of signs leading to his death, which is now predicted to be on September 26th. The signs on September 21st, which are extremely important and must be known about and learned, are explained in the absolute must-watch thriller video, in which the thumbnail is an image of Michael Jackson dancing with zombies. One of the ways in which God pointed to September 21st ahead of time was through the Jonestown suicide murder massacre, in which they took pointy things, which is how Michael Jackson died. He died after taking a pointy thing at the age of 50, and the signs on this date, September 21st, pointed or revealed the number 5 in context of Jimmy Carter, because the two met, Michael Jackson and Jimmy Carter, on the date 5/5 in regards to pointy things for kids. Jackson was a member of the Jackson 5 as a kid. The story on September 21st regarded one of the alleged 5 kids that the Jackson estate has been paying off because of the alleged assault of these kids by Michael Jackson. And the story regards the final payment of $500,000 and on and on and on, in fact. So anyway, long story short, and believe me, I didn't just explain anything or much at all. So that reveals 5 days, though, from September 21st to get the date it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die. The reason why the connection from Jonestown, which was about pointy things, to Michael Jackson is because of his video Thriller. As you'll see in the Thriller video that I made, his music video Thriller is about zombies, and that is because God is communicating those who have taken the pointy thing will in fact very soon become demonically possessed, and there will be a zombie pandemic, as described in the 5th trumpet in the book of Revelation, which will be facilitated by 5G frequencies. Okay, so make sure you watch the Thriller video. That's it for now. The rest of this video, like I said, is extremely important and must be watched, and it explains how and why God pointed to September 21st ahead of time. It's amazing. However, September 26th was yet another step in the trail of signs, prophetic signs that are leading to the predicted date that Jimmy Carter will die on November 4th. I won't explain it here, but one of the signs we received on September 26th was Hurricane Helene, and Hurricane Helene hit Florida, the 27th state. 27 is 3 times 9. 39 days after this will be the 309th day of the calendar year, on the date on which it is predicted that the 39th president will die, Jimmy Carter, on November 4th. Other videos explain why all of that is important. That's not the subject of this video. The subject of this video is the amazing signs that need to be told from God that occurred on September 21st. And this is how it works. It's a big picture of signs. If God were to simply tap someone on the shoulder and say, look, tell the world that such and such is going to happen on such and such date, it wouldn't really give us very much. But it is through these interconnected trails of signs that God is able to tell these amazing stories and thereby communicate essential information and knowledge that everyone needs to know. And that's why you need to watch this video, to learn about the stories that God was telling through the prophetic signs that occurred on September 21st in context of the connections and other prophetic signs that connected to September 21st. It is amazing beyond words, as it always is. The wise person will recognize when the prediction comes to pass, that they should watch every minute of every video on this channel, including all of the Carter videos. And so going forward, do not be confused when this video will talk about Carter dying on September 26th. I have just explained how it works. And I just explained how September 26th was a step in the trail of signs. This video was made prior to September 26th. I will be explaining briefly some reasons for how this date is known in advance. As we can see here, this email was composed on September 14th. I have known that Jimmy Carter will die on September 21st, long before September 14th, but this email in particular was composed on that day. Okay, September 14th date. This email is composed. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I'll forward it to you. Now, this email is documenting the prediction that former President Jimmy Carter will die on September 21st, and that his prophetic funeral in the National Cathedral will be on September 26th. Also, Carter became the president in 77, and it is also predicted that the 49th, as in 7 times 7, Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on a flight on September 25th that will mirror that of Flight 77 on 9/11, in other words, from Washington to Los Angeles, but in fact the other way around. She will be traveling to Carter's funeral. It is also predicted that 7 + 7 + 7 days after Carter's death, Joe Biden will step down, Michelle Obama will become the president, and Barack Obama will be appointed the vice president on October 12, 2024. And that's, by the way, why she will die in a plane crash, so that Barack Obama can become the president again. James Earl Carter will die at the age of 99. Jimmy Carter entered into a hospice on February 18th, 2023. This is 581 days before it is predicted that Carter will die. 581 is the 181st semi-prime number. Barack Obama is the Antichrist, and his name in Hebrew, gematria, is equal to 181. 581 days is also 19 months and 3 days. The number in 193 is the 44th prime number. And the Antichrist is the 44th president. And by the way, Jimmy Carter is himself a symbol for Barack Obama. There are many parallels, as I explained in other videos, especially the must-watch Carter Malaise speech video. Make sure you watch it. Jimmy Carter is symbolism for the prophecy in the book of Revelation about the 5th through 8th kings that reveals the identity of the Antichrist. 581 days is also 17 months and 3 days, and 173 is the 5 times 8th prime number. 581 days is also exactly 83 weeks, and 83 is the 23rd prime number, and the basketball president wore jersey number 23 in high school. The day that Carter entered a hospice on February 18th, 2023 was exactly 531 months after the Jonestown mass suicide murder. The name of the most well-known survivor of Jonestown to tell the story of what happened is Tim Carter. 531 is prophetic, is a prophetic number because it is the number of days in a blood moon lunar tetrad, eclipse tetrad. This is why it is appropriate. It is exactly 531 months from the bloody massacre in Jonestown to the date James Earl Carter entered a hospice to die. The reason for this connection to the Jonestown mass suicide murder that was orchestrated by the leftist America-hating cult leader, Jim Jones, during the Carter presidency, is that God is communicating that the coming mass suicide murder will be orchestrated by the leftist America-hating cult leader, Barack Obama. A blood moon tetrad consists of 4 blood moon lunar eclipses spaced at intervals of 177 days. God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. There are 3 sets of 177 days in a blood moon tetrad. 177, in turn, is 59 plus 59 plus 59 days. 59 is the 7th super prime number, making 177 a symbolic 3 sets of 7 that God frequently uses in his signs and connections to symbolize judgment. Because of the Israelites and their symbolic 3 sets of 7 before the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment on Jericho. The Jonestown Massacre occurred 1,830% of a year after the birth of Barack Obama. 183 is the 59th semi-prime number. Okay, and Barack Obama will become the president again after the shoplifted referendum of the 59th presidential shoplifted referendum. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. That was designed by God so that Biden could be the president again and enable him to make Barack Obama replace him. I knew this even before the shoplifted referendum, that this would happen. Okay, and also, the thing about Jonestown here is that the mass murder suicide was facilitated through pointy things. They thinged themselves with poison through using a pointy thing. They also drank the Kool-Aid, which is where the expression comes from, by the way, if you didn't know. By the way, if you didn't know this too, at the time, this was a record number of people in surveys said that they knew about this thing. If you ever do a survey, if people know about something, a news event, most people, there'll be a significant number of people that say they're not familiar. But this was like a 99% kind of thing. In other words, it was one of the most famous things during the Carter presidency. This Jonestown mass suicide of the Americans living in a colony, in a communist colony in Guyana. Okay, there's more to this prophetic sign, but the point is it all ties to Carter because of Tim Carter, the guy who saw it all, and he was the witness. He wasn't there, when they were called in to do it. And also the people with the guns forced the people to take the thing. That's why it was a mass suicide murder, because not everyone was doing it willingly. There were people that couldn't leave. It was a mass hypnosis, a cult, right? And so people were drawn into there was 900 people too, right? Jim Jones called for the assembly, and this was right after the U.S. congressman came for a visit to check the place out, to see what was going on here with these Americans in Guyana. That's when Jim Jones, the paranoid leader of the cult, called for everyone to come into the center of the commune, and they were then to take the thing and kill themselves, but they surrounded the place with a perimeter of people with guns that prevented anyone from leaving. All right, and that's also symbolic of what's coming. People being trapped. God is communicating being trapped. Like, for example, the prophetic sign that is the people trapped in Gaza. Okay? So there's this symbolism for trapped. God is also, for example, just an example, used the movie Carrie, where the people are trapped in the gymnasium and then they're massacred. So that's what's coming. There's going to be a massacre, a politicized genocide of the left on the MAGA, the conservative Republicans, the true conservatives and true Christians, as Bible prophecy even describes. That's where all this hatred is going, and where it comes from. It comes from Satan. The truth of the matter is the left is being riled up by Satan for this, to massacre true conservatives and Christians. But it's also symbolism for being trapped into taking the thing, the pointy thing, and that's also part of the Jonestown story. Jonestown also hints at Jamestown, and we're talking about James Earl Carter. Jamestown is known, the founding of America, but it's also famous for having been abandoned briefly after what's called the starving times. Because that's what's coming. There'll be a food shortage, and only those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist, the supposed good citizens, will be permitted to buy and sell the food. Okay. Carter is symbolism for the prophecy in the book of Revelation about a seventh king that is followed by an eighth king. Carter is predicted to die 78 days after the first Labour Party prime minister in many years became the first Labour prime minister to meet with King Charles. 78 days is also 2 months and 16 days, which is at 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6, and Obama was born on the 216th day of the year. Jimmy Carter became the oldest living president in history on the date 3/22 in 2019. This pointed to Genesis 3:22 and the first lie told by Satan, which was the promise of immortality. That's why the longest living president on the date 3/22. Carter is predicted to die 322 days after the anti-Israel student protesters stormed the iron gates of the White House compound, which was exactly 44 years after student protesters stormed the iron gates of the U.S. Embassy compound in Iran, which began the Iranian hostage crisis, also known as the 444-day hostage crisis, which was the last 444 days of the Carter presidency. One way in which God has communicated that Carter is symbolism for the 44th president. Okay, and regarding the 322, the first lie in the Bible will also be the last lie of the age. There will be a promise of immortality through taking the thing, which I assume will come from demons pretending to be aliens promoting the thing. Some sort of transhumanism technology that will be promised to lengthen or even give immortality to people. Lengthen the lives or even immortality. It'll be a lie. That's what's communicated with Carter being the longest living president on the date 3/22, and that's why, as I've explained, it connects with the date Carter is predicted to die. Carter is symbolism for the prophecy about the 5th through 8th kings, and Carter is predicted to die 5 years, 5 months, and 30 days after Carter became the oldest living president on 3/22 in 2019. 5 years, 5 months, and 30 days hints at 533, the 173rd semi-prime number. 173 is the 5 times 8th prime number, which hints at the 5th through 8th king's prophecy. 5 years, 5 months, and 30 days is also 550.68% of a year, and this too hints at the 5th through 8th king's prophecy, because of the 6th and 8th kings in the prophecy. This is merely scratching the surface of the reasons for how this prediction is known in advance. For more information, please visit odyssey.com, spelled O-D-Y-S-E-E, or rumble.com, video channels, Harris Crash Prediction. And also read the website trumpprediction.com. All right, there is so much more amazing things to this story here regarding specifically the Jonestown Massacre and how it relates to James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter, and the predicted date for his death. So let's just get into it. It's so amazing here. Yesterday evening, I produced the Jonestown video, the segment of the video that you just listened to. This morning at the gym, a dance track was playing that uses a sample of the chorus of Earth, Wind, and Fire's song, September, this very famous 1970s disco track. Well, is it? No, it's not a disco track, but it's Earth, Wind, and Fire's September song. Okay. The day of the Jonestown suicide murder massacre was the same day, the very same day, that Earth, Wind, and Fire's song September was released. The first lyric of the song is, "Do you remember the 21st night of September?" Okay, that's how the song begins. Carter is symbolism for Methuselah. In his signs, in God's signs, Carter is symbolism for Methuselah, and I explain this a lot in the Carter funeral video, but I'm going to explain it here too. Methuselah is Noah's flood symbolism. Okay, Methuselah's name means when he dies, destruction. And so in other words, when Jimmy Carter dies, destruction of America. So Methuselah died at the time of the flood. When the flood began, that's when Methuselah died, and that's what his name means. Earth, wind, and fire hint at Noah's flood. Okay, this is hinting at judgment, destruction. Peter said that the coming destruction would not be symbolized by water, but instead this time be symbolized by fire. So we are talking about, in other words, elements, and that's what the Noah's flood was. So earth, wind, and fire is symbolism for Noah's flood. The 21st night of September in 2024, the night it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die, will be 550 months and 3 days after the release of September on November 18th, 1978. The same day as the Jonestown suicide murder massacre. 550 months and 3 days hints at 553, the 173rd semi-prime number. 173 is the 5 times 8th prime number. It's the 40th prime number. By the way, the number 40 is also a number that is symbolic of Noah's flood. The flood waters increased for 40 days. But what we have here is this connection between the Earth, Wind, and Fire song and the predicted death of Jimmy Carter on the night of the 21st of September, which is how the song begins. And it is 550 months, which ends at 553, which is the 173rd semi-prime number, which is the 5 times 8th prime number. Carter's death and funeral will point to the prophecy regarding the 5th through 8th kings. I don't know if I've explained it in this video already. I think I may have, probably. So this is what the death of Jimmy Carter will point to, and specifically his funeral, when the former presidents are lined up in chronological order on the pew at the funeral at the National Cathedral because of the chronology of kings, the series of kings that is described in the book of Revelation. Carter's inauguration in 77 began this series of 7 kings that led to Trump, the 7th of the kings. That's why Trump was also inaugurated in a year ending with 7, and on his inauguration day, he was exactly 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. Okay, and it was 77 days before he launched 59 missiles into Syria in the Middle East, and 59 is the 7th super prime number. Okay. This prophecy reveals the identity of the Antichrist. In turn, the release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's September song on the day of the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre was 666 days after the day that Carter was inaugurated in 77. The number 666 is Antichrist symbolism, and so this is how this is all relevant, because it eventually connects to, as I just explained, the day that Carter will die, which is a prophetic sign that reveals the identity of the Antichrist. Not that the identity of the Antichrist wasn't revealed long ago. In fact, that's another story. It's just another confirmation of literally countless confirmations. So don't worry, and all of this will be, I'll show this all in a diagram, these connections in a diagram in a minute also. The day of the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre and release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's song September is 11 months and 17 days before the beginning of the 444-day Iranian hostage crisis. 11 months and 17 days hints at H 1117, the word in the Hebrew Bible concordance, Strong's Concordance, that is Bama, uppercase Bama, as in proper noun Bama. And this hints at the 44th president, as does the 444-day hostage crisis. 11 months and 17 days also hints at Revelation 17:11, which is the prophecy about the 5th through 8th kings. 1711 is the 58th triangular number, which is a second witness confirmation, because Revelation 17:11 is about the prophecy about the 5th through 8th kings. And the number 1711 is the 58th triangular number. Methuselah, whose name means when he dies destruction, died at the time of the flood at the age of 969. The equivalent of 969 in the octal base counting system is 1711. This is how we begin to tie Carter to Methuselah. Okay? So in octal base counting, we use a 10 base counting. But if we were to use an octal as an 8 base counting, the number 969 would be equal to 1711. And I have just explained how the number 1711 relates to Jimmy Carter because of the prophecy of the 5th through 8th kings. But Carter is also symbolism for Methuselah, who died at the age of 969. Okay, and now this is a step to confirm that Carter is in fact, or Methuselah is in fact, symbolism for Carter, because Methuselah died at the age of 969, and that's the equivalent of 1711 in octal base counting. But why is octal base counting relevant? Well, G969, the 969th word in Strong's Greek Concordance in the Bible, is the word beryl, and is the 8th of 12 stones in the book of Revelation. So there you have it. That's why octal-based counting is relevant, because the 969 word in the New Testament is the 8th of the 12 stones described in the book of Revelation. Also, Hurricane Beryl was the 8th hurricane named Beryl in history. This hurricane that hit the U.S. in July of 2024. This Hurricane Beryl was the 8th hurricane named Beryl in history, and the Beryl stone in the Bible is the 8th of the 12 stones in the book of Revelation. The first ever storm named Beryl was named in 1961, the year that Barry Obama was born. He later changed his name to Barack as an adult. Barry hints at Barack, or Beryl hints at Barry. And that's why the first Beryl storm was named in 1961, the year that Barry Obama first came onto the scene when he was born. After hitting the mouthpiece of the trumpet, which is the Yucatan Peninsula, so Hurricane Beryl first made landfall on the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, if you look at a map of Mexico and the U.S., Mexico is in the shape of a shofar trumpet. A shofar trumpet, a shofar horn, is the ancient horn the Jews would use from a horn from a goat, from a ram. So it's a shofar trumpet. That's the shape of the geography of Mexico. And the mouthpiece, which is what one blows into to blow a trumpet, is the Yucatan Peninsula. The reason for this is because the border wall of security with Mexico and the U.S. is symbolism for the border wall of security of ancient Jericho that collapsed in God's judgment after the Israelites blew trumpets. That's why the shape of Mexico is a trumpet. That's why, of course, the border wall of security crisis since Trump left office. Trump was trumpeting this in God's prophetic signs. It is symbolism for the destruction of America, the current border wall of security crisis. Okay, so, and when the Hurricane Beryl hit the peninsula, it was with 110 miles per hour winds. And that's because Joshua, who led the Israelites around the walls of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment, died at the age of 110. In other words, the number 110 symbolizes the trumpets that were blown before the walls of security collapsed. Okay, so after hitting the mouthpiece of the trumpet, the Yucatan Peninsula, the 8th hurricane named Beryl hit the U.S. on the 8th of July, which is the date 7-8, and hints at the 7th and 8th kings in the prophecy that identifies Obama. G 4567, 4567, is the word in Strong's Greek Concordance that is Satan. Hurricane Beryl hit on July 8th, 2024, 4,567% of a calendar year after the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre and the release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's song September, which was during Carter's presidency and was 666 days after Jimmy Carter's, Methuselah's, inauguration. So there we have it all tied to Carter, because the date of his inauguration ties now to Hurricane Beryl, which confirms everything about, because Beryl is tied to Methuselah, as I've just explained. And so now we have clearly a period of time connection connecting Carter to Methuselah, and also, therefore, Earth, Wind, and Fire, which sings about the 21st night of September, and Jimmy Carter, Methuselah, is predicted to die on the night of the 21st of September. And I now say the night because of the song. I didn't know this before the song, but the song's lyrics says the night of September 21st, so it's probable that it will actually be in the nighttime. Okay, so Carter's inauguration in 77 began the series of presidents that parallel the prophecy regarding the 5th through 8th kings that identifies Obama as the 8th king. Carter's inauguration in 77, on January 20th, was 1,730% of a year after the birth of Obama, and 173 is the 5 times 8th prime number, as I mentioned earlier, because now we have a second instance of this, which makes it a second witness confirmation. And by the way, this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. The birth of the Antichrist 8th king, Obama, connects with the 5 times 8th prime number to the inauguration of Obama, which was 666 days before the Jonestown suicide murder massacre and release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's September, which is in turn 11 months and 17 days, Bama, Revelation 17:11, before the beginning of the 444 days of, before the last 444 days of Carter's presidency, which was the 444-day hostage crisis. Okay, the Iran hostage crisis is also known as the 444-day hostage crisis because it lasted 444 days. The 444-day hostage crisis was in Iran, which is Persia. In the Bible, the Jews were persecuted by a type for the Antichrist on the 2 13th days of the month in Persia. The name Iran is equal to 133 in Hebrew gematria. The mark of the Antichrist is the CVD thing, the pointy thing, and it is described in Revelation chapter 13. Okay? The masses of people who gladly took the mark of the Antichrist are hypnotized and are in a cult, a political cult, and in truth were gladly committing suicide for their cause that they believed in. Just like the people who took the pointy things and drank the Kool-Aid in the Jonestown suicide murder massacre. That is the reason for all of this. Again, the day that Earth, Wind, and Fire's song September was released was the same day as the Jonestown suicide murder massacre, which was 666 days after the inauguration of Carter. The reason for connecting Jonestown to Carter, because it occurred during his presidency, but God will be communicating with the death of Carter what I am about to say and what I have just said. The reason for all of this, why God has tied all of this together, is exactly what I have just said, and I'll just repeat it. The masses of people who gladly took the mark of the Antichrist, which is the CVD thing, okay, and for Christians here, quote-unquote Christians that don't agree, how about this for you? It is the mark of the Antichrist in its current form. It does not need an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship or a supposed new age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is, in fact, it is judgment for this particular doctrine. The commonly held objections that people have based on their understanding of Bible prophecy are answered in the must-watch snake bite video on this channel. But when the prediction comes to pass, it will prove that these commonly held objections are incorrect. And this is the purpose of this prediction. Believe me, I know far better than you the reason for this prediction that is from God and why God has given me a voice through this prediction. It is to prove what I have just said. Now, back to what I was saying also here. The mark of the Antichrist, okay, the masses of people who gladly take and took the mark of the Antichrist are hypnotized and are in a political cult. And in truth, were gladly committing suicide for their cause, that they believed in. Okay, it was a religious thing. That's the truth. Those that are looking for a false form of religious worship, this was it. Scientism is a religion. The thing that God hates most, false religion. Now, everyone knew that it was an experiment and had not been fully tested. But they were hypnotized into the cult and the propaganda that made them overlook this, or rather not to pay attention to that. But they fully knew there is no excuse. They all knew this. And they all knew that it was a brand new technology that had never been called a thing before. Begins with a VA and ends with a NE. A V and then begins into an ax and then an im. Never had this thing ever been used for such a thing, for such a purpose. It was brand new, and the companies that had been experimenting with this to try to develop a thing with this technology for over 10 years had never ever produced a single successful product. It always ended in disasters on the animals that were tested. And everyone knew that. But we were told that now this one was going to work. Never mind the past. Never mind that it's an experiment, and these things normally take 10 years to develop and get approved, because it's not possible to know the long-term consequences of a thing in a couple of weeks before it was approved for emergency use. Okay? So everyone knew all of this, though. And everyone knew the long history of corruption in the thing industry. But all that was forgotten because of the cult that these mad, insane people are in. Okay? Now, that is exactly like Jonestown. That's what happened in Jonestown. That's why God is using this to tell the story of the truth of what is happening. Let me continue. Just like the people who took the things and drank the Kool-Aid, because if you don't know the story of Jonestown, they used things. They used pointy things to do their mass suicide murder. And then they also drank Kool-Aid to speed up the process. But things were involved, okay? It wasn't only the Kool-Aid, in case you didn't know that. The other people in Jonestown who were in the group and going along to get along, but in the end didn't really want to take the thing and commit suicide, then had their freedom to leave taken away and were then compelled with threats to take the thing. These people were murdered, just like the people who were not true believers of the cult, true believers in the cause of the political cult of today's left, who did not really want to take the CVD thing, but took it anyway because of the threats. And in order to get along and to not lose their freedoms, and these people were murdered. Now, people have already died, but people are still going to die. That's why I say murdered in general, for all of them. The people who took the CVD thing but have not died yet will soon become demonically possessed. Okay, so if you don't know the Jonestown story, there were people in this cult that in the end didn't really want to go along with the final act, but they were called into the center of town. They had been preparing for this day because of the mad leader, Jim Jones. They were being trained prior to this, long prior to this, for a possible day when they would need to become martyrs for their cause, which was communism. It was a political cult, just like today's political cult. A political/religious cult, just like today's political/religious cult, because it is a religion, today's political cult. And so when they were called into the center of town, when the order had been given to do the act, commit suicide through taking the thing, they were surrounded in a perimeter of people with guns. And the ones that were hesitating were forced to do it. No one could leave. The last ones to kill themselves were the ones with the guns. So everyone did it. And I forget if some of the people were shot, but if so, that is also symbolism for the thing, because the things that come out of guns and go into people in God's signs are symbolic of the things that come out of things and go into people. Okay? So, all right, so this is the reason for Jonestown here. God is communicating this parallel. Now, the people who took the CVD thing, it gets worse, because what we need to communicate now is what's coming. Okay, some people died already. A lot of people died, more than people realize, because the mainstream media won't talk about it. But for example, the insurance companies have experienced a 40% increase in working age adults' claims for death insurance. Just for example, okay. The people who took the CVD thing but have not yet died will soon become demonically possessed. This is alluded to in Revelation chapter 9 and the description of the fallen angels rising out of the bottomless pit, led by their king, who is described in Revelation 9:11. This is why the date of the Jonestown suicide murder massacre is 11 months and 17 days to the date of the beginning of the trapped Americans in the 444-day hostage crisis, just like the people that were trapped in the center of the Jonestown that were forced to go along with what they were doing. And that beginning of the 444-day hostage crisis began on the date 11/4, which instead of 11 times 4 equals 44, in 1979. And that was exactly 29 years before the 44th president was elected. 29 hints at 1 plus 1 and 9, and hints at King Apollyon in Revelation 9:11. The leader of the fallen angels. The Jonestown suicide murder massacre was also 111 months and 29 days, which again hints at 2 1s and a 9, after the day that Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Apollo 11 hints at Revelation 9:11, King Apollyon. The two names are the same. Apollo and Apollyon are the same name. And in the Bible, the moon is a giant rock. In the Bible, rock is symbolism for Jesus. But, so, that's how this also points to Barack Obama, the Antichrist, who will enforce the mark of the Antichrist. In other words, in this parallel, Barack Obama is Jim Jones. But this cult is well underway, and there are Barack Obama isn't the creator of the cult. I want to make that clear. He isn't. He just takes what's already happening and he gets handed to him the Antichrist system. He doesn't create the Antichrist system. The Antichrist system is already in place and he steps in Bible prophecy. Obama's birth connected with the 5 times 8th prime number to Carter's inauguration, which was 666 days before the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre and release of Earth, Wind, and Fire's song September, which was 4,567% of a year before Hurricane Beryl hit the U.S. on July 8th, which was in turn 53 days before Trump held a rally in Jonestown, Pennsylvania. Trump being God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. Trump trumpeted from Jonestown. The name Jones is rooted in the name John. The reciprocal of 53 is 0.0188, which hints at H188, the word woe in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, which is used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. That's why the 53 days between Hurricane Beryl, that's connecting all of this to Trump in Jonestown, which is more Jonestown symbolism. In turn, trumpeted in Jonestown exactly 5 times 7 weeks before October 4th, the date that it is predicted to be the symbolic beginning to Revelation 9/11 day, or predicted to be Revelation 9/11 day, the symbolic beginning of the mass demonic possession. 5 times 7 weeks hints at 5G. G is the 7th letter of the alphabet. It hints at 5G frequencies that will facilitate the mass demonic possession of those who have taken the thing. It will trigger the components that are in people that will induce delta brainwaves, which will facilitate demonic possession. The 5G frequency range begins at 450 megahertz, and this is hinted at with this connection from the 45th president in Jonestown. As well, the number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, and Trumpet's rally in Jonestown that pointed to the things that were used in Jonestown, the mark of the Antichrist, symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, is 22 days before it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die. The name of the survivor of Jonestown is Tim Carter, as I explained earlier. Additionally, Hurricane Beryl hit the 4 times 7th state to join the Union. The Roswell, New Mexico incident is symbolic of the coming deception of demons pretending to be aliens that will begin on October 4th, this Revelation 9/11 day, this symbolic beginning to what's coming. And the incident in Roswell occurred on the date 7/4 in 47 in the 47th state. That's why Hurricane Beryl, which is part of all of this, hit the 4 times 7th state to join the Union. 11/18/2024 will be exactly 2 times 23 years after the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre. 223 is the 48th prime number. And November 18th, 2024 will be 4 times 4 days after the 44th president becomes the 48th president. That's a prediction. 2 times 23 also hints at 2 sets of 23 chromosomes. It hints at 23 pairs of chromosomes, which are altered by the things, the mark of the Antichrist, which is the reason for the 2 times 23 years connection from the things that were taken in Jonestown. So we can expect something relevant to be happening on November 18th, 2024, shortly after Obama becomes the president. Okay, here is the diagram. And I forgot to label this date here. That's the date of Hurricane Beryl, July 8th, 2024. Okay, so here we have the prediction of Jimmy Carter, this connection that I explained, which is hinting at 5 times 8 and the 5th through 8th King's prophecy, to the date of the Jonestown Suicide Murder Massacre and Earth, Wind, and Fire's release of September, which begins with, do you remember, the 21st night of September? Okay, that's why Jimmy Carter will die on the 21st night of September. Okay, and so this is 22 days, which hints at the mark, which is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist, because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the book of Ezekiel in the Bible, and it would have been the last a Tav mark, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and the 22nd letter. And the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, and which is the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. And so this was the day that Trump was in Johnstown, which is symbolic of Jonestown, which is symbolic of the things, which is the mark of the Antichrist. That's why the 22 days connection. Okay, and again, Jonestown happened during the presidency of Jimmy Carter. That's why 22 days from Trump in Johnstown to the death of Jimmy Carter. Okay, this connection here is 53 days, which is the reciprocal of that is 188, which again hits at whoa, exclamation mark. That's the day of the hurricane that hit. Okay, and that was the 8th storm and all that as I explained. But this is the connection I explained, 4,567% of a year to the Jonestown Suicide Massacre. And again, this number is the G word in the concordance for the Greek concordance for the word Satan. And that's relevant, or our second witness to that is the 666 days. So these two connections confirm each other because 666 is also the number that symbolizes the Antichrist, Satan's representative. That's getting us to the date that symbolizes Jimmy Carter, the day of his inauguration. This in turn is getting us to the date that symbolizes Obama, his birth, with 1,730% of a year, and 173 again is the 5 times 8th prime number, and that hints at this prophecy that Carter points to, the 5th through 8th King's prophecy. Okay, now here's the 11 months and 17 days. Again, that hints at Revelation 17:11, and also the word Bama in the concordance. That gets us to the 444-day Iranian hostage crisis when Americans were trapped, just like the people in Jonestown were trapped, and the people who have taken the thing are trapped and will be trapped. Okay, and that was the symbolic last 444 days of Carter's presidency, because Carter is a type and parallel with Obama, the 44th president, as I explained in the other videos. This again gets us to the date that symbolizes Obama with 29 exact years. These dates are 11-4, which hints at 11 times 4 equals 44, and this was the day that Obama was elected the 44th president in 08, which is 4 plus 4. And this is 29 years because God uses this number. If you were going to hint at the number 911 with only 2 numbers, he would use 2 and a 9. That's why, because 2 is 1 plus 1, and we have a 9, so we have a 9/11 there. And that is hinting at Revelation 9:11. This is Revelation 9:11 day. This is the symbolic beginning of the mass demonic deception. I'm not saying it's going to happen on this day. Something, though, will happen that is symbolic of this that will happen on this day. Maybe it'll be aliens appearing and being in the mainstream media or something to that effect. Or maybe the Pope announcing that the aliens have arrived and made him the world ambassador of the world, etc. Because the Pope is the first of the 2 antichrists. Barack Obama is the second of the 2 antichrists. Okay, so that's Revelation 9:11 day. That's what this all is hinting to. The people have taken the thing, which is what is being pointed to with Jonestown because of people taking the thing at Jonestown. Okay, we have all this Antichrist connections here. It's just astounding how evil these connections are, all right? We have a woe connection as well, which hints at the woe of mass demonic deception, or possession, I should say, and a zombie pandemic. People seeking to be dead and won't be able to find it, as the book of Revelation says. Okay, and this is why Jonestown, Trump in Jonestown, the 45th president, is exactly 5 times 7 days, which hints at the 5th trumpet, 5G, 5th of 7 trumpets, but also 5G, because G is the 7th letter of the alphabet. 5G frequencies, which hints at the prince of the power of the air, as described in the Bible, Satan, the prince of the power of the air. That's why the frequencies through the power of the air. That's why also, by the way, Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, prince of the power of the air. And 5G frequencies symbolically begin at the 450 megahertz level, which is hinted at with the 45th president, and that's why we have this connection, this 5G connection from the 45th president to the beginning, or at least a symbolic beginning of 5G, facilitating mass demonic possession, because 5G is symbolized by the beginning frequency level of 450 megahertz. So there you go. This diagram, I think, makes it easier to picture all of what I have just explained. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.